This is Shaun in Fresno. Are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you're on the air.
All right, I recently attended one of Dr. Frank Turet's seminars. I don't know if you know who that guy is, but he's author of the book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist.
I, in fact, was invited to attend one of his talks, and I wound up being busy. But yeah, I'm familiar with him.
So I wanted to present you guys with his moral argument and see how you guys respond to it.
Is this, are you playing devil's advocate here, or is this something you think is true?
I'm really not sure about it.
Okay.
I'm an agnostic, so that's why I want to hear your side of it.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, Mother Teresa was morally right, and Hitler was morally wrong. There's certain moral objectives that exist. It's wrong to kill Jews, it's wrong to rape people, and if these moral objectives exist, a God has to exist. If there's no God, then it's just your opinion versus, say, Hitler's opinion or Bin Laden's opinion. If there's no God, everything's permitted. So a God has to exist for these moral objectives to exist.
And I assume that he thinks the God in particular that exists is the God of the Old and New Testaments, right?
Judeo-Christian God, yes.
Yes. Do you want...
I guess I'm wondering how did we get to God has to author these things? Like, why must a God be the source of a moral objective? Does he explain that leap? Like, how does he get to that? I didn't catch that part.
I don't know, and that's why I don't really accept it.
Let me get back to...
I think he's saying... Sorry, go ahead.
Let me get back to something that Jeff D. and I have been harping on for a number of years since we discovered this cool Plato dialogue called Euthyphro. Are you familiar with it?
No,
I know you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
You should check it out. It's a dialogue by Socrates where Socrates asks a character who's very convinced that he did the right thing because it's good in the eyes of God. Socrates says, well, are good things good in the eyes of God because they're good, or does God hold things as good? Am I messing this up?
Basically, the question is,
yes.
Is God telling us what is good, and it's good whether God tells us or not?
Does God tell us to do things because they're good, or are things
good because God said
tells
to do
us
them?
To do them?
So is anything God says good, which means that if God says to rape, then rape is good?
Right. The thing about this objective morality argument is that it claims that God is beyond the subjective, whereas really it's an interesting question. Like if God says that killing 6 million Jews is wrong, does he have to say that? I mean, could he, in an alternate universe, have said, killing 6 million Jews is just peachy, I'm all for it? What do you think?
Well, I mean, just like in the Old Testament, where he says to kill the Amalekite children. Okay?
Exactly. God says
was
some
it
pretty
right
weird
because
stuff
God
in
said
the
to
Old
do
Testament.
it? You know, when God said to do that, was it right because God said it? So is genocide correct sometimes if God says do it and you don't know really why and you just go do it? I mean, what makes it right about God saying it?
Okay, I understand what you're saying. See, what he's saying is atheism can't provide a reason for why these moral objectives exist. He's saying that
what we're saying is even if that
Sorry, go ahead.
What we're saying is even if that turns out to be true, religion can't either.
Right,
religion can only make people agree to follow a particular set of rules, but that particular set of rules requires you that if you hear the voice of God in your head saying, go kill your son, then the right thing to do is say, okay, until further notice. Because that proves that you're a good and faithful servant. Now, I feel kind of icky when I hear about that moral statement, and that makes me, concerned that the idea that the God is telling you everything is right could open the way to doing some actually morally reprehensible things without really understanding why, but just thinking it's right because the God tells you to.
Yeah, but you can actually, I mean, to answer your question a little bit more thoroughly, and this is not necessarily an atheist perspective so much as just like my personal perspective, is that if you look at biology, there are some animals that are social animals, there are some animals that are not social animals. You don't see, you see the rise of morality in social animals. And if you look up, there's an experiment that might interest you. You might look up Google like silver fox experiment. And what it is they took an asocial, very aggressive animal, and they bred for passivity until they got a group of these animals that were social. They wagged their tails, they barked, they wanted to interact with other animals and also other people. They weren't as aggressive, they were friendly. And they had this sort of capacity to interact with others in a way that was good instead of a way that was aggressive and threatening. So you can see the rise of interaction with others that is more positive and less threatening and less aggressive and more social, which is really where morality is coming from. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a demonstration of how morality is biologically driven.
Right.
Does that help at all?
I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. It does. I see what you're saying. These moral objectives exist, but you can't get from that to God exists. And there is based on what you're saying, there is an explanation of how morals exist that isn't divine. So thanks a lot. And also, if you guys ever got a chance to go to one of Dr. Trek's seminars, that'd be really cool. That'd be like Darth Vader versus.
I would listen to it and blog about it, but I'd be kind of hesitant to stir up stuff among a group of hostile church people.
Well, that's exactly what I did. It was me challenging him in front of 300 theists, and I've never been in a situation like that.
Walked out with your skin intact.
I have some friends who've done it.
Thanks for the help.
Yeah,
right,
hats off to you for doing that. That's brave.
My shorthand advice is definitely check out the Euthropho. That's EUTHRYPHO.
PHRO.
Dialogue.
Right?
Yeah, I said that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay. Or if you want the shorthand of the dialogue, go to ironchariots.org and look up Euthropho and that. And also, I just remembered that Matt did a lecture on the superiority of secular morality a few weeks ago, and it is now available as video via the blog atheistexperience.com. And it's only a few weeks old, so or less than that even. So check that out too.